Welcome in everyone to Flyover Fallout. A happy Fallout too, right, Santi? We're here on the day after a 2-0 win, so there's nothing but celebrating we can do, right? There's no reason to do anything otherwise.
No, we're happy. It's something that has not happened in a while. So yeah, we're happy to be here, talk about it. But yeah, good performance, 3 points, first win away. So happy about that.
First win for Critch away at
Yeah,
least.
yeah, yeah. But first win away since March. So
Oh my gosh, it's been forever, right?
yeah,
Almost forget how to handle something like this.
I know. And first result on the road for Critchley too. So this is good. Good feelings overall.
Good feelings overall. And that's kind of that's what we have to carry into this one. We're gonna have some fun talking about this one, I think. That's for sure. You were on the call, right? So what did you make of it
Mhm.
real time? Does it actually feel, or did it feel at the time like it was as positive as a performance as I think I feel like it was right now?
It's a positive performance, but at the same time, you have to think about who you were playing against, also the amount of young guys Montreal is playing. So you also have to temper the expectations.
Hmm.
If you follow it with another result against San Jose next week, now we're talking, but it's just one win against one of the worst teams in the leagues. So yeah, it's good. You win those games. You're supposed to win. And I'm not even sure if City was supposed to win because City is also at the bottom of the table. But it's good at least to get a result against one of these teams.
And that's the thing too. Like I've said earlier this season, when you're struggling, one of the big things that is important and needs to be understood from a win like this is that it helps to separate you from certain teams. Because
Hmm.
if you look in the table, we've been talking for the past few weeks how we're wooden spoon contenders, and we're competing against the Galaxy, DC, Atlanta, Montreal for that bottom, legitimately last place in the entire league. But a match like this is important because it can help separate you from those teams like that. We don't have an opportunity to play DC or Atlanta, but you know, this is an important measuring stick as we finish the season, because we can hopefully at least say right now we are a better team than Montreal, because this was a pretty quintessential Montreal team that we expected to see. A youthful team in transition for their organization. They are officially in a rebuild. And so this is the kind of team that you want to say, right, you, with everything going on with our organization, that you are better than. And I think they did that enough to where we can, at least at this moment in time, say there should be some clearer separation between a team like Montreal and a team like us.
Yeah, yeah. So one of those that you are supposed to win to get a result, and yeah, it's good for City to finally get a result away under Critchley, get the first clean sheet under Critchley too. So those are positives, but
Yep.
for me, it's about following it with another good result against
Yeah.
San Jose.
Couldn't agree more. You ready to dig into this? Because we got plenty to talk about today. And we've got. We thank you for your joining us in the live chat. We will get to every single thing you guys say, talk about, and yeah, join in the conversation because we love it. Santi, you ready to do this?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Welcome in everyone to Flyover Footy. My name is Matt Baker, joined as always by my friend in soccer, Santiago Beltran, for another edition of Flyover Fallout. And this is a happy one. This is a 2-0 win against CF Montreal. It is the first away win under David Critchley as interim manager. It is the first clean sheet under David Critchley as interim manager. It is the second to last team that we've officially played in Major League Soccer after with New York Red Bulls being the only remaining team, though we did play the Red Bulls in preseason this year. So in all competitions of sorts, this was the last one. And we got the win that we wanted. Coming into this, we knew CF Montreal was a team in transition, a team doing a rebuild. And so they would be playing a lot of kids, a lot of youth. They had DP Loney that we saw in Jaime. There were some quality here and there for Montreal, but overall, I got to say this was a fantastic performance by St. Louis City. I can't wait to dive into it. And so, Santi, bringing you in, how you feeling after this match?
Feeling all right, Matt. Getting a win is always good, especially after 4 games. And after that 4-game winless streak, uh, games where the team had to score goals but didn't get the result, and it's great. It's great to get 3 points. The positive about getting a clean sheet also, which had not happened under Critch, and beating a team that basically is a direct contender in that wooden spoon race. So you separate from that for another week, and it was a good performance by the team. And yeah, I know Montreal created chances too. I think it's something I expected, just knowing that it was two of the teams that had allowed most goals in MLS. They are at the bottom. So I expected goals last night. Didn't know if it was going to be a Montreal win or a City win, but I expected a lot of goals last night. And in the end, it was only two.
And Montreal had been fairly good as far as not allowing that many, though. Even in their recent form, wins and draws, they had allowed some. So yeah, this was a match where it could have gone really and either way. Both teams at this point in time vastly different than I think they were at the very start of the season, where St. Louis was more of a hard defensive-minded team. Montreal was just allowing goals left and right. One fun thing about this, we'll talk about on Thursday when we preview San Jose next week, is we still have a pretty good chance to allow fewer goals against this season than we did last year. I mentioned that we still have to shore it up in the last 4 games remaining, but when all is said and done, we have 51 goals against still compared to 63 last season. So that's 12 goals, 12 goal gap that we have in 4 games. That seems really doable at this point. And I would be very disappointed if we actually didn't get to that now. So a clean sheet did a lot to further that. And you're looking at this point, I think, Santi, for any kind of sign of progression that you can really grasp onto, whether it's from the beginning of the year till now, season over season. For a team that's in as much flux as we are, there's a lot that you just want to grasp onto that it might not otherwise mean a whole lot, but to us it does.
Yeah, it's a win at the end of the day. It will give the guys confidence. I also like the consistency on the starting 11, and that gives the team some confidence getting a result. Now you go and play against a San Jose team that is also in that playoff race. Some people call it like a direct opponent at this point. I think chances that City makes it very slim, but yeah, go beat one of those teams and see what happens. But getting a result away will give the confidence the team needs for the next 4 games, and hopefully get back-to-back results. That's another, like, yeah, a lot of new things under Critchley with the result last night, but one thing that hasn't happened after all the wins under Critchley have been followed with a loss. So hopefully this San Jose match will break that trend.
Pump the brakes on that, Santi. Would you call this San Jose game upcoming a 6-point game like you used to refer to them earlier in the season? Are we still there, or is because you said direct?
No, yeah, no. I'm just paraphrasing what other
I
people are
know.
thinking.
I
Like,
get it.
to me, it's not. To me, City's out of the playoffs.
Okay,
And
but let's bring it back to this match for a little bit, because even though before we get into this match itself, you talked about looking to find consistency. You could argue that one of the more consistent things that St. Louis has been doing is promoting players from City too, making changes to the roster, even though we're outside of the transfer window. So before we get into this match, we actually had some player movement we need to address on Friday and Saturday. I think it was on Friday, the club announced that they had loaned midfielder Jake Girdwood-Reich to A-League champions Auckland FC through June 2026. With this move, City retains the option to recall him before January 1st, 2026. So there's some layers to this one. First of all, Girdwood-Reich is a U22 player for St. Louis. I confirmed with the club when the move happened that this does not free up a U22 slot for the club. So Girdwood-Reich is still occupying a U22 slot even while he is on loan. There are some MLS rules on why this is the case. They mostly have to do with who picks up all of his compensation. And so that's the biggest factor here. Having the option to recall him before January 1st, 2026 makes this a little more easy to digest for me and understandable, because you want to give him that opportunity to go. You're sending him on loan, but this also lets you see how your roster build goes. And do you need him more directly for your build in 2026, whether it's in the center back side, center defensive midfielder. This gives you flexibility throughout the MLS offseason to see where you stand heading into the holidays and whether you need to recall him. If not, he goes on full loan until June of next year. It's an easy thing to see how this could potentially lead to a full sale. We didn't say in the press release whether or not there's an option to buy from Auckland, but Girdwood Reich has not had the most stable tenure under St. Louis City. Between the initial injury, he had an initial injury when he arrived. There was an acclimation period from Australia he was 18, 19 years old at the time. And then this season was marred again with off-season surgery, illness, taking a little bit to get into the swing of things, kind of sort of transitioning more fully from defensive midfielder to center back based on the needs of City. And then his goal, as he stated to me, was to really earn a spot, given all the injuries that were occurring. That didn't really happen. With the signing of Falou Fall, the return of Henry Kessler from injury, Girdwood Reich immediately fell off. And this was kind of the culmination to me of all of those sequences of events. I would love to see him return, and under a U22 contract, we are building our roster next year with him occupying one of those slots. I'd love to see him return for next year, but I don't know if it's in the cards.
Yeah, it's difficult to know because he couldn't break into getting consistent minutes this season. Even when all the injuries happened, it took a while for him to get a start. And he started at center back. He did okay when he started, but then when all the injury guys came back and Falou Fall came, basically he fell out of favor and didn't get any more minutes. This is a good move for him to get minutes. I think it also shows what the organization may be thinking about 2026 and going forward, because you think about it, you're towards the end of the season. This could be an opportunity to give minutes to guys like JGR, but at the same time, if you are sending him away, and you can say only 5 matches left. If he goes to another league, he will have more opportunities to play, continue developing. But to me, if you want to develop him, you can also do that here in the 4 or 5 matches you have left.
Yep.
And the other thing that caught my attention is that City, that he's still a U22. It doesn't release a slot. So to me, based on that, based on the rules, it sounds like City is still picking up most of his salary. So it's more like a move to give him minutes. If you think you need him in January when you have a new coach, and the coach says, okay, I need a player like that, maybe you'll bring him back. If not, I think you're right. It probably will lead to a sell, even though there weren't any terms stated about that.
I wouldn't mind digging into this later or more on Flyover on Thursday, but I will be, my honest opinion on this one is this has far less to do with a need for St. Louis at the central midfield spot or an overwhelming, central midfielder locker room, having too many players at central mid and just needing to find minutes. It has less to do with that, needing to find minutes for Girdwood Reich. And it has more to do with St. Louis's evaluation of Girdwood Reich, their desire to have him on the club at this point. I will call into evidence the fact that he was signed by Lutz. First of all, we are now in a post-Lutz Pfannenstiel world where John Hackworth is making the calls at this point. But this also leads to basically the corresponding move to sign midfielder Seth Antwi from City 2 to a first-team contract. City also announced that on Friday, signing Seth Antwi to an MLS contract through the end of 2025 with club options for 26 and 27. Antwi has been with City 2 since 2024. He has been, quote, a consistent presence in midfield. In his first season, made 25 appearances, starting 21 matches with 2 assists, carrying that into this season, featuring in 24 matches, starting 22 of them, also logging 2 assists. They play similar positions on some level, central defensive midfielder. Seth Antwi profiles as that nice sweeper who can be a good pivot, and Jake Girdwood Reich arguably could fill that same role. So as opposed to playing JGR more in a role that he has experience in, they chose to send him on loan and sign a player who plays his position from City 2 in the organization. Now, Seth Antwi is 25 years old, so it depends on how they're structuring this as to whether he's on the supplemental roster, but that's the assumption.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in that regard, it is less need to hit on this kind of a player as much as it was for JGR. So that's another reason why I say I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see JGR back with St. Louis. Is that this is not a move to tactically structure the roster and provide depth at the central midfield spot. This was a move personnel based. Maybe he was homesick. We've had that happen for players before that we bring on. Jabulu Blom notably was one of those players. Isak Jensen was pretty quickly sent back to Denmark. Various levels of success on both of those levels. We obviously wish JGR the best with Auckland, in New Zealand, in the Australian A-League. But man, I just have a tough time really digesting this as anything more than City wanting to move on from this player that they currently don't value in the way that Lutz did.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. Maybe it's part of this rebuild that the team is going through, and even though it is alone, maybe the team. The one thing is, even if we're moving on from him, we won't know that until June.
Right.
So in January, he will occupy that U22 slot regardless, right?
Yeah. So again, it doesn't to me have as much to do with the roster build as much as the individual player. Like we just don't rate him. We don't have him in mind for contention. And so this is the best for his. And in the press release, I think it's John Hackworth who's quoted by saying, this loan gives him the opportunity to return to a league he knows well and gain consistent minutes as part of an exciting project with Auckland. We're looking forward to following his growth as he takes this next step in his career. That doesn't exactly say we're excited for him to get minutes and then return to us for to feature or to be in contention. We're excited to follow his growth. It's too vague for me to really have faith that he's going to come back. I think this leans more into the sense of we don't rate him like Lutz did, and we're willing to move on by almost any means necessary.
Yeah, and he if you think about it, 3 coaches since he arrived to City, and he couldn't find minutes with any of them. So I'm sure we'll find out more next year. To me, it's too bad that U22 slot is still tied up, because if it wasn't, it would make more sense. Like, hey, City can get a U22 in January and then figure out what to do with him in June if there isn't a sale. But this U22 slot is tied up until June next year, right?
It is, and I think St. Louis still does have flexibility with the U22 slots. Currently, today, they have JGR, they have Falou Fall, Chris Durkin, and Songbin Jong. Next season, if we pick up Songbin's option, he'll still be a U22, so we'll have JGR, Songbin, and Falou Fall. Chris Durkin won't be eligible for U22 slot because he'll age out of it. And so we'll at least have flexibility to do one of two things, either sign another U22 or potentially go back to the DP model of roster construction. And because Klaus will be coming off of a DP contract, whether we pick up his option or not, he'll be a TAM player if we pick up his option, but we'll have 1 to 2 DP level players. So we can still choose U22 roster construction and maybe sign another U22, or DP roster construction. We have 3 U22s now, and then we would be able to sign up to 2 DPs. So there's still plenty of flexibility, especially given, like I've said before, the amount of signings and big contracts that St. Louis has been able to pull off in any given window. I'm not as bummed out by the fact that we're still keeping JGR on a U22 deal. It's taking up a U22 slot while he's on loan. I still think we have enough roster flexibility that it's not world ending, and it's not really going to impact our 26 build as much.
Yeah, that's fair. So one question. So obviously they sign Seth Antwi to this first team contract with options for 2026, 2027. If at the end of the season the club announces Antwi's option has been picked up, do you think that's the official ending of JGR's tenure with the team?
I would look to see what we do correspondingly with Durkin and Morales.
Fair.
because we do have a lot of question marks on contracts for our central midfield spot. We've got one player under contract, Edu Leuven, for next year, and then we have options available for Durkin, Morales, and now Antwi. Also, Tomas Ostrak, he's under contract as well. So, it'll be interesting to see what we do with some of those. I do think if we pick up enough of those, the writing's gonna be on the wall. But we're gonna know by January 1st. I think if we don't recall him, he has a much higher likelihood of being gone for permanent. But Santi, we have spent a lot of time looking at this big picture, what this means for next year. Let's get back into this 2-0 win against Montreal, and let's start off that conversation with the starting 11. It was Roman Berkey, Devin Padelford, Falou Fall, Henry Kessler, and Conrad Vollum, Chris Durkin and Edu Leuven as our central midfielders. Celio Pompeu, Marcel Hartl, Songbin Zhang, and Klaus were our attacking midfielders, and striker. And the notes kind of write themselves. Songbin sliding right back in after returning from his international duty with South Korea. A very consistent 11 from last week. Otherwise, with Celio remaining in the lineup, Tomas Ostrak sitting, Simon Betcher was not on the matchday roster. And the reasoning for that, if you missed the news on Thursday that we talked about, was Simon Betcher took a, quote, pretty heavy blow to the foot in training on Wednesday. He went for tests on Thursday, and thankfully Critch said post-game to me on this one that they came back negative. All the scans and tests came back negative, meaning Betcher does not have structural damage to his foot. This, along with Critchley's being impressed with Brendan McSorley and Mackay Joyner's performances recently, he chose to go with them on the matchday roster as opposed to Simon Betcher, giving the opportunities to the younger guys. Now, Santi, go whichever way you want about this roster, but I'm really curious what you think this says about the depth of City in our attack, that we're able to comfortably say we're good not choosing Simon Betcher, even though he probably could go with no structural damage. It might be a pain tolerance type of a thing, but we're comfortable with Brendan McSorley and Mackay Joyner in the role of second half subs versus needing to push a guy like Simon Betcher.
Yeah, to me it makes sense to not rush his return. Like you are towards the end of the season, why would you want to risk aggravating an injury to a player that you have under contract? You picked up his purchase option earlier in the summer, so just take care of him, let him recover, similar to what the team is doing with Serri Toichar. So no need to rush him. But when I think about depth, and you mentioned McSorley, Mackay Joyner, I don't compare those two to Betcher. I see Betcher more as a number 9, and I think that's still a need for the team for the next transfer window.
What do you see Brendan McSorley profiling as? Because he showed a lot of really good qualities. And in just a moment, we're going to talk about our good and bad big picture stories from this game. But, I saw a lot to like about Brendan McSorley in the limited number of minutes that he was in, especially in stoppage time, that opportunity he had turning with the ball, carrying it a pretty good amount, and then offering a shot on goal.
Oh my God, I thought that one was going in. I was so excited. But yeah, he showed good things last night. And it looks like he can play that position too. It's just that with City 2 and so far with City, he had not been used in that position a lot. So, but yeah, he could develop into that. He could be an option. He could be part of the depth in that position. But I don't think that changes the fact that the team needs a number 9.
It was an interesting choice going with Betcher instead of Ostrak, for instance, knowing how going with McSorley over Ostrak, knowing how McSorley was positioning in that match. But I do wonder if that shot, I saw it and I was like, oh, well, last time McSorley had an opening, he didn't receive the pass. So he's just figuring, I'm just going to take it myself this time.
Possibly, because he had options. He
did.
But yeah, sometimes when you are young and you are eager to score your first goal, you make those choices. Obviously, it didn't go in, but in the end, it was a good shot.
It was a good look.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a good look. It's not like the opposite when he wasn't given that pass that Jan de Silva basically he shot it, but he didn't have a chance. Like
right.
At least on this one, he had a chance. He had a good look. But yeah, I think that's part of being eager to score your first goal in MLS.
Agreed. And absolutely no problem with him having taken that shot, especially up to nothing. It was a speculative shot from distance. Yeah, but he had room. He had the vision. He had the clarity of net. And so zero problem with that shot choice being taken. The big stories in this match, Santi, we talked about him right from the onset. Critchley's first away win and his first clean sheet as interim manager of St. Louis City. I looked back based on a question I had on, I think it was Twitter, that this was our second ever win wearing our Confluence kit.
Wow.
Can you believe that? The question I was asked is, was this our first ever win? And I actually had to go back to 2024 and double check to see what we were wearing in those couple of games, or that game maybe even. But it was San Jose away in September 2024, the last time we won wearing our Confluence kit. The match earlier this season against Seattle, we were wearing our Forever City Red kits when we were in Seattle.
Well, we lost.
Or in LA. I'm sorry.
In LA.
Yeah, the first game against LA. Because we won back-to-back LA, Seattle. It was home against Seattle. It was away against LA. LA was wearing their white kits. We were wearing our Forever City Red. So this was the second time ever. And we are about to wrap up our entire usage of this kit.
That's right.
I would not be surprised if City is just ready to move on from this kit. There's some kind of bad juju going on. But that is insane that it's been a full calendar year since we've won wearing this kit, first of all, and it's only the second time that we've ever won while wearing it. That's a wild stat to me. It's more wild than the clean sheet stats, which St. Louis totaled their sixth clean sheet of the season, Berkey's fourth, and Critchley's first clean sheet on his tenure. Finally getting that done. Critchley said post-game, quote, "We've seen growth each game, and even though we've had moments not go our way, we've limited them well today. And to have a clean sheet, even though I'm an attacking man, I do pride myself on these moments." So Critchley trying to downplay the importance of it, but we talked to Conrad Valla, Marcel Hartl especially, and they both noted the importance of this, how the team had prioritized and talked about their goals for this month, September in particular, being an away win and a clean sheet. And I think those are natural, obvious goals that you want to set for yourself, especially at this point in the season where you're up against it with just a couple of away matches left, knowing that if you don't do it now, it's going to be really tough, and you're putting yourself up against it with that final game. So this great job getting those goals accomplished, and the way that they did it, I've got multiple positive things to say about the way that they were able to get these two goals, the way they were able to keep the clean sheet. They finished the chances then, and they finally closed out enough opportunities, and they were well-created chances, and they were necessary for the players to finish in those moments. The final passes that were made, or the ball that fell to Conrad Valla, the pass that was made to Hartl, put both of those players in such perfect positions that for a DP like Marcel Hartl, if you're going to be in that position to get that shot, you cannot miss. We've seen multiple shots by Hartl and other players that they have missed those moments, and that's what's led to such frustrating fallout from that. But this was an opportunity for Marcel Hartl, trailing Klaus. We'll talk about the goal in depth in a minute, but he was able to clinically finish it. And for Conrad Valla, he put himself right in that spot, that open area. Nobody was around him. He took the space he needed, and it ended up being a deflection, I think, from Klaus. Whether Klaus was shooting or passing, debatable, but on the broadcast, they thought he was shooting. Deflected to Conrad Valla, and he found it for the goal. So no matter how, and we'll talk about the goal in a minute, but it's good finishing, and both of those chances came in multiple buildups. You had transition that led to Hartl's. You had crossing and multiple passes that led to the Conrad Valla goal. So this is St. Louis that was able to successfully take advantage of multiple looks, multiple builds in their attack, and score multiple goals. Very happy to hear that.
Yeah, and getting the clean sheet, and I know we're gonna talk more about the goal in a few minutes, but Conrad Valla finally getting on the scoring record. It's good too, because he had not in recent matches, but earlier in the season, when he was used more as an offensive player, he had quite a few chances. And I remember you mentioning in the pod about him having a high total XG, but is still not scoring any goals.
Yep. And finally, we saw a goal scored. So first, Conrad Valla, first goal, wearing a City kit. That's absolutely important to note early on. The other factor on the defensive side, is that we limited corners and free kicks against. Montreal only had 4 set pieces in this game. I think they still volume-wise, they outpaced us on set pieces, but this was a point of contention in my eyes. And I challenged David Critchley on Thursday. What do you got to do to clean this up? And they cleaned it up. Quality-wise of your opponent is what it is. You play who's in front of you. But again, like we talked about earlier, if you're wanting to separate yourself from this type of an opponent, CF Montreal, already eliminated for the playoffs, second to last, even worse than what you feel you are, you need to have this kind of a performance. And defensively, limiting them to their set piece opportunities meant being smarter in and around the box, better challenges, better tackles, better positioning in your approaches, and making sure that they didn't get deep enough to earn corner after corner after corner. So this helped, in my opinion. If you limit these opportunities, knowing that you've had a weakness on your set piece defense, this was a huge reason that you were able to keep that clean sheet. And on the opposite end, I thought St. Louis's press was good enough. I didn't think we were overly great. It wasn't overly noteworthy, but it was good enough, and it was better than Montreal. Because on Montreal's side, Marcel Hartl spoke post-game, noting when I asked him about him coming back and helping in the build, because Marcel Hartl came back an awful lot. I think if you look at the goals added stat that MLS Analytics put up on Blue Sky, Marcel Hartl is at the very bottom of the goals added list of all St. Louis City players. And I think a reason for that is he was so willing and consistently coming back to receive passes, to pass back before moving up. So I think it's the passing receiving stats on the goals added that's why Hartl's so low, not necessarily dribbling or shooting or anything like that. But my point on this is because he was doing that, he did that because Montreal wasn't pressing man-to-man as much as they expected them to. Hartl said that their game plan called for Montreal to be pressing more man-to-man, and they didn't do that as much. So it opened up space for Hartl to come back to the ball at times, help free up some attackers up front, help out with the center backs in their ball progression, and they were successfully doing that. St. Louis was very successful, primarily using Flou Fall as the point person on the back line, with Marcel Hartl coming back to help out with that. I thought the progression was really good. And on the other side with Montreal, their interim head coach, Marco Donadel, noted post-game that their team lacked energy. So this was St. Louis taking advantage of a team that really wasn't following their own game plan. And again, if you're looking to separate yourself from a team like this, St. Louis did enough in their progression that they seem like they were that better team overall, progression, goal scoring, otherwise. And Santi, the last thing I'll say before I want to bring you in on your opinion on this guy, Flou Fall. Very willing to progress, make longer connecting passes, horizontally, vertically, had that fantastic save on the back line. I felt Flou Fall put together a more full 90-minute performance tonight. It was exactly what I wanted to see. There was no holes in his game. He covered others. He was covered by others. He played his part very well.
I think so. He was very involved. He had a good amount of clearances, and he shows that he's adjusting to the team. He's finally, after a few games, getting acclimated and playing with Henry Kessler too, back-to-back games. He's adjusting. And he's starting to show some flashes of that defensive guy that the team expects him to be, especially knowing that he's signed for multiple years and is supposed to be part of these next 5 years, part of the project, and be one of those cornerstones of that structure the team wants to put together. So yeah, good game by him. Hopefully he continues doing that in the next 4 games. But yeah, I know there was a lot of disappointment early on, especially after that mistake he made a few games ago. But he's young. He's adjusting to a new league, and he's starting to show he can be important for City.
And not just that save that he made with his head, but Flou Fall was the most accurate passer of anyone playing more than 45 minutes in this game. He had 96% completion rate, which is fantastic. Funny enough, as he was one of the keys in progressing the ball, he had four accurate long passes. Most of St. Louis's build was on the right side in this game. 54% of passes that were in the final third came from the right side. 60% of passes into the penalty area, into the box, came from the right side, with Conrad Vollum and Song Bin leading the way on that. And you had Edu Leuven, Marcel Hartl, and Chris Durkin, who led the team in volume of passes into the final third, which showed a ton of strength in the midfield. You could easily argue that the formation in this game was actually a 4-3-3 based on how often Marcel Hartl was coming back. When we were building up, he was playing more of an 8, I would say, than a 10, just based on how willing he was to just peruse the entirety of the midfield. His heat map also reflects this. So great work, good build on the right side that was leveraged by a very strong midfield core of Leuven, Hartl, and Durkin in this game. And my final big, really good thing that I want to talk about before we get into the details and the play-by-play is this match ended with all of Brendan McSorley, Mackay Joyner, and Seth Antwi as part of the 11 to close out a clean sheet. David Critchley's first clean sheet. The seven other players outside of Alfredo Morales had gone the full 90. So this was a balance, I would say. And it really speaks to a question that we have in the chat from Michael Miller. What is more important in these last few games, getting wins or getting the young guys some minutes? And I asked David Critchley about that a little bit. And David Critchley said the performance was fantastic. As much as we want to win the game in 3 points, it's a balancing act. To give some of these guys a chance from City 2 to be in the first team, it shows culture in the team and an opportunity to grow. And we'll give anyone a chance we feel is ready. So I felt with Brendan McSorley in particular, the note from Critchley post-game is that McSorley's getting closer to the level required to be featured as a rotational player. He said you can't come in from City 2 and just have a starting role. Doesn't happen. Didn't even happen with Mackay Joyner. It's not going to happen with Brendan McSorley. But Critchley said you need to be a rotational player, come in, perform on both sides of the ball, and McSorley's looked good. Critchley noted there was a few moments he looked a little nervous, but finishing off the final action and having that last opportunity and stoppage that we talked about was, Critchley said that would have been fantastic. He almost put it in the top corner. So my question to you, Santi, is the comments from Critchley about relating to, I guess, kind of the goals of getting 3 points, developing players for next season. Was this game a good example for how that balancing act should be implemented in these last 4 games? Was it successful in this game, do you felt? And I think that's probably obvious. But do you feel that this is a blueprint for the next 4 games of how you can kind of use that balancing act to accomplish both goals?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is results driven too. When you have a 2-0 lead and you're managing the result, it's a good opportunity to insert some of these young guys, some guys that you have brought from City 2. I think that's the right way to give them minutes. Something that I have not liked even in previous seasons. When McSorley came on loan, he came in like 85th minute of a game that was already out of hand, that the team was losing. So yeah, obviously winning gives you more opportunities to insert these guys, put them in the right environment. But putting them in garbage time is something I have not liked in the past. So yeah, this was good. Even for Antwi, he only had he came towards the end, but he got his MLS debut, and it's good. It's good to have combine the wins with the possibility to give these guys development. I like his comments on McSorley that he's closer to being a rotational guy, and he's right. It's difficult to come from City 2, no matter how successful you are, to being a started in MLS, to being a starting player in MLS. So yeah, I think hopefully he will keep the balance. It's 4 games, depending on what happens with San Jose. I think you can maybe change it a little bit. Like if the team is mathematically eliminated after the San Jose game, maybe you can look at, okay, I need to give more looks to these guys, and maybe give more minutes to other guys that haven't had minutes in the last few games. Not only guys from City 2, but maybe guys who have options for 2026 and haven't seen a lot of minutes. You can, I think it's one of those things you take game by game. But for the game against San Jose, I think I will go with the same approach. And if you're getting a positive result, start giving these younger guys some minutes.
Well, this is the second straight match that we've seen Brendan McSorley, both very different game states. So last game he was brought in, and we were drawn 1-1 with Dallas, and they were down a man. And so I think so Mark Stock in the chat, you got to go up to do it. And I totally agree with this. This is going to be the interesting thing going forward, is that this game, I think, provided a safer space of sorts by bringing in Antwi, McSorley, and Joyner at the point that you brought them in after being up 2 goals. That provides a little cover where you're not needing them to do too much. You're needing them basically not necessarily to park the bus yet, but you're needing them to just hold the lead. They do enough. They don't need to do too much. Where McSorley last week was in the game where they were searching for a goal, desperately wanting to get that goal to go up on FC Dallas. This match, yes, it contextually in it was exactly what they needed, exactly, and they delivered exactly what we needed them to deliver. Going forward, though, seeing where they enter in different game states may provide more of a challenge. So that's going to be the big thing for me to watch. This is something to build off of with all of McSorley, Joyner, and Antwi. Going forward, if they're given those opportunities in different game states, maybe we don't see Seth Antwi if we're needing to score a goal. Maybe he doesn't provide that profile that you need in that moment. He's more defensive minded, and he helps to control the ball. And so it made sense to put him in this game. Brendan McSorley, Mackay Joyner, maybe you do see them with opportunities to seek a goal or come from behind and see how they can do in those moments, because that'll push them not only in their development, but if you do that after St. Louis, for instance, would be eliminated from the playoffs, it's a different, you're put under a different microscope, right? Because you're not holding on to the hope of the season. You truly are kind of pivoting at that point to valuing the growth and development for the culture of the organization, as opposed to needing to get 3 points to stay alive in the season. It is very contextual in these choices, these decisions. So that's a big piece of what we're going to be watching going forward with guys like Joyner and McSorley more specifically. Santi, did you have much bad to evaluate in this game? Early on, I thought some of our passing was far less than crisp. A lot of the moments in the first half, the first half ended with like 50-50 possession, but there was a lot of balls being challenged. There wasn't a lot of, there was a lot of passing that really wasn't connecting well, leading movements, bad first touches, turnovers with space to move. Early on, I was worried about Klaus's back heel becoming predictable, even though he definitely proved me wrong in transition later on in the second half. But I just didn't feel like there was too much bad going on in this game, especially after a 2-0 win that's really worth dwelling on.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to tell. One thing to me, especially in that first half, even though Montreal didn't score, at times it looked too easy for them to get in St. Louis's box and create chances. And yeah, Berkey had a good save. Falufol also had that one on the line. That was a great save too. But I think in the first half, even though St. Louis was up 1-0 at the end, Montreal created some chances, and at times it looked too easy to me the way they created some chances and were able to transition.
I agree with that. I think that's probably the biggest question mark is just making sure you're controlling larger portions of the match, not letting the opposition get into consistent groove, which Montreal did get into towards the end of the first half. Before that, though, the first half, I think the match itself started very well. So let's dig into a lot of the moments that made this first half. Conrad Wallem had a couple opportunities early on. I think he had 3 total really good opportunities in the first half. Started at 10 minutes. Wallem with a great cross into the box that found Hartl. Hartl's headed the ball into the ground and then over the net. So Conrad Wallem almost had an assist on that one. And that was the point to me where I said, okay, here we go again. Because you're sending the ball, it's a cross, first of all, which triggered PTSD from last week with our 61 crosses. But also, you had an opportunity for your designated player to score a goal on a great, great cross, and he didn't pull the trigger, wasn't able to execute. This was another red flag for me moment where you have to bury that opportunity from Hartl. But to their credit, St. Louis did not let that get them down. They continued on the advantage, and just a minute later, after City was pressuring, Montreal recovered the ball in their own defensive third, attempted to clear it out, but it was blocked by Chris Durkin. And Chris Durkin gets a lot of mixed feelings in this game and otherwise, but Chris Durkin did keep this ball alive in the final third for St. Louis, gets it to Conrad Wallem over on the right wing. Wallem sends it to Hartl, and as soon as Wallem passes to Hartl deep on the right side, Conrad Vollum turns and runs straight into the box as Hartle is getting the cross into Klaus. And when Klaus receives it, Conrad Vollum has positioned himself right in that penalty area, wide open. He takes every bit of space that Montreal's vacated, finds the perfect place to position himself. Once Klaus receives it, secures it. I thought it was a pass at first. The announcers thought it was a shot.
Yeah, it
And
was.
upon replay, I agree, it was a shot. Deflected by Montreal, but deflected right to Conrad Vollum. A perfect example of you just need to be in the right position at the right time. If Vollum doesn't make this move to occupy that space, if he just remains at his right back role, this goal doesn't happen. This was Conrad Vollum making it happen, putting himself in the right spot to catch the more or less deflected shot. No assist was given, but Vollum buries it with a 0.25 XG and a 0.91 expected goals on target. That means it was a good quality opportunity and a fantastic placement of the shot that had near no opportunity for the keeper to save it. So flowers to Vollum for this.
That was a great move by Conrad Vallem. The way he ran after passing it to Hartel is something we don't see a lot, because especially the right back, like you can expect that maybe he will run towards the end line to get another pass, but he ran straight to the box.
Mm-hmm.
Something we don't see a lot, but it was a great move and great field awareness by him. And maybe this is something the team identified in Montreal. They knew they needed to occupy that space in case of a rebound. And yeah, what I saw was a shot by Klaus that was deflected, and that Conrad Wallem in the right place to get that shot and get his first goal in MLS after a lot of unsuccessful attempts especially earlier in the season.
2 points on this. Daniel Binkholder asked, did Vollum do similar runs against Dallas? I don't think we had the space to do similar runs. I think Dallas was so bunkered for most of that match after being down a man and tying the game that they didn't offer the same space. And so it's a combination of a different look from the opponent, but being good enough to recognize that and take the space afforded. I just didn't think he had it against Dallas. The other question for you, Santi, is I'm going to get into it. I'm going to go for this point. Do you think Thomas Totland would have made that same cut inside to be in that space?
Oh, no, probably not. I don't think I have seen him do that kind of run. And it's more like the profile of the player.
Yes,
Like Conrad
100%.
Wallen. So I don't think that's Totland's profile. So no, I would
100%.
say no.
I agree 100%. But that to me speaks a little bit to the versatility of this kind of a player. He's not just the player who can get the crosses. He's not just the player who can go wide. He's not just, and I'm not pigeonholing Thomas Totland saying he's just a player who can do this. I just don't think that is a component of his game where he's going to invert so far inside to the central area of goal, being comfortable in that location. Part of that is the fact that Conrad Vollum is comfortable on both wings like Thomas Totland is, but also in the central areas where you've got folks post game now. And I posited this during the game, whether Conrad Vollum would be happy if he was a TAM level player or a DP next season, if the purchase option was that high. I think by and large, the thought is folks would be happy and okay with him as a TAM level player, but not really reaching that quality of a DP that we've seen so far. This to me offers a glimpse in why he is so worth it in that regard. He can play a 6. He can play an 8. He can play the fullback roles. He can play the attacking wings on both sides. But no matter where he is, if the need of the game and the game state calls for him to take space in one of those other areas that he's not playing, he was a right back in this game, and he very much occupied like a central 10 type of a role in this play based on where the space was. He is comfortable taking that, knowing that we're in the advantage, knowing that we have the ball in the attacking, the penalty area, knowing that there's very little risk of vacating his space and us being caught off guard. He took that opportunity. I think that's a huge piece of his game that we haven't really had the opportunity to see necessarily, but in a match like this, it proves absolutely vital.
Yeah, it was a great move. And I'm just thinking, like, yeah, his versatility is great. He can play it in different positions, and the team is going to have to make a decision towards the end of the season, or at the end of the season, on where to exercise that purchase option. And yeah, maybe he can be a TAM level player, but if you sign him, if you buy him, like, are you buying him as that player that can play a lot of positions, or where is he gonna be on the depth chart? Is he gonna be a right back, especially after his comments last night about playing right back? I'm wondering about that.
Yeah, that's a great segue into what his comment actually was. I asked, I think did I ask Conrad Vollum? Yeah, I think I asked Conrad Vollum this about his positioning because you started off the season on the left side, left wing back. He's played the 6, he's played the attacking right mid, and so how does he do this with different positions? And he said it's been hard week to week going different positions. But Conrad Vollum said that he sat down with David Critchley about a month ago on his way forward as a player. Where do they see him? How they can make him reach his full potential and get the most out of him for City. And he said they found out a right back would be a good position to get his skills and strengths. And now it's helping to know that he can be more position specific. This was interesting for a few different reasons. It coincides with Thomas Totland ceding that position, Conrad Vollum taking it more regularly over the past month plus. But also, contextually with how City is built. You're having your regular midfielders, Leuven and Durkin, and maybe Morales in there as well. And so Critchley identified, presumably, that right back is an area of need that Vollum's skills and strengths can be applied, not just to the betterment for himself, but for the team build as well. So you have Padelford as well around this time period on the left back side. You have Totland and Orozco, who were your options at right back, and Durkin and Leuven and Morales to an extent in central midfield roles. You've brought in Song Bin on the right. You have Hartle and Salio as options on the left, and Ostrak or Hartle in the central. So looking at all of this, the weak link that was presumably identified was Thomas Totland or Haziel Orozco or that right back area. And so Conrad, this to me closes the book on the conversation of who our best right back is at this point, at least under David Critchley. Critchley identified right back as the area that Vollum can best help this team. So maybe in the future, maybe in 26, a different head coach, if a new head coach comes in, decides that Conrad Vollum, if we pick up his purchase option, decides that his best position on this 26 roster is the 6, or decides that the best position is left back. A lot can change for 26, but talking right now for this 2025 roster, Conrad Vollum is our best right back, and that seems to be where his positioning will be for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, and that's too bad for Thomas Totland. I don't think he's gonna get a lot of minutes between now and the end of the season. Conrad Vollum has basically put his name in that position, and he's showing he can do it. Obviously, it's a race when he goes up so high, and you leave spaces, and quick transitions from the other team can hurt you. But he's trying to find that balance, and he has been getting better at it every week. So I think we're gonna see that we're gonna see him starting consistently for the next 4 games. It's unfortunate for Thomas Totland, and yeah, we'll have to see first what the team does with that purchase option, and second, that's the thing. I don't know if we will have a coach before the team has to decide on that option. They may have to decide without a coach, so that's also a risk. Like, what if the new coach doesn't see him as a right back, and then has the same issues? So, you have all these talented players in midfield and have to figure out a way to use them all. But yeah, for now he's doing well at that position. It's unfortunate for Thomas Totland, but if he's performing, he's delivering, I don't think you can make an argument that Thomas Totland needs to be in that position and start games.
Agreed. And David McDonald asked in the chat if a new head coach comes in quotes that I just said, are we really still thinking Critch is an option? Not practically, but I try to choose my words kind of carefully, and we haven't made any decisions. He's still technically in contention. He's not doing a good job of earning the job. No, I'm not overly optimistic. I'm not delusional to think that, but at this point in time, especially after a win, I still think if is the credit we can give, even if we don't think it's a realistic possibility. He's still technically in contention. But no, I don't think he's realistically an option for next season. So we talk about what Valum might look like under a new head coach, how they might rate him, and while at the same time talking about what Critchley is going to do with him and where he best sees him and how that is detrimental to Thomas Totland, for instance. But moving on from this, for the last part of the first half, we got to mention again Falou Fall saving the goal. Henry Kessler had a bad giveaway. In our chat, I think it was David who asked, would Kessler's bad goal have given a better team a goal, or bad pass have given the better team a goal? Possibly, but I think the overall positioning of our players, Berkey coming out, making himself kind of big, that forces you to chip it. Right, you're less likely, and it's possible like a Peter Musa maybe would have gone directly to the side. I mean, that would have been an amazing shot if you had gone to the side of Berkey in that moment. That would have just been amazing. Falou Fall might have still saved that because he dropped back and he had that positioning as well. So he had really good positioning on it. And if you notice, when the ball was chipped, Fall was basically like a baseball outfielder who was just waiting. It felt like forever for that ball to come down and time his header to get it out. So I think Fall was really well positioned to cover for what Berkey was doing in that moment. I find it hard to say that unless you're talking an absolutely elite, maybe a Lionel Messi type level player would have scored a goal on that. I give the benefit of the doubt to Berkey and Fall for covering for Kessler in that moment. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Falou Fall did a good job covering. He and he made a good run to get there, knowing that Berkey had come out and be an option when the shot came. But yeah, it's hard to know if another team will have converted that opportunity. I agree. Between Fall and Berkey, both of them did the right thing at the moment to cover for that mistake, which was unfortunate, but it happened. And those are the things. Like, yeah, we have seen in other games, somebody makes a mistake, a goal is scored, and momentum changes. This one was different. The team was up 1-0, kept the 1-0 going, avoided the equalizer, and it was also early, like 22nd minute goal is scored in the 11 minutes. So if that goal is scored, then you start thinking, oh, we cannot keep a lead. So it was great for the momentum, but I totally agree. They did a good job covering, did the best to avoid the goal. And yeah, another like Messi or maybe Peter Musa, if he goes really hard, he may have scored that goal. But I think they lowered the percentage for that opportunity to be converted in a goal.
And after that, you had one more pretty good opportunity from St. Louis. 33 minutes, Conrad Valum had a big go after Salio forced a turnover, brought it into the final third. Good interplay between Klaus and Leuven, but nothing came from that shot. And then after that, the first half ended with Montreal having 5 shots in a row, no St. Louis shots after that, leading up to the half. 2 were blocked, 2 were missed on goal, but St. Louis had no shots after that 33 minutes. So that's where you get Montreal kind of taking a little bit momentum into half. But at the end of the day, St. Louis goes into half up 1-0. Montreal was leading in XG. Montreal was leading in shots and shots on target. Possession was 50-50. And you had Montreal leading in passes into the opposition half, the final third, and the box. So they were leading field tilt. Second half came out fairly equal. And then you had a really strong moment by St. Louis at 55, where I would say the clinching goal happened, and kind of that changes a lot of the game state. 55 minutes, Marcel Hartl scores. Montreal had possession. Edu Leuven intercepts a pass just outside our defensive penalty area and almost creates it in stride, where he turns quickly. And at this moment, this is a good example of how quickly St. Louis's attackers can and need to turn once we turn the ball over to initiate that transition really quick, because Songbin Zhang was off and running. Edu Leuven recovered this ball, turned a little bit, and then outstretched it to Songbin. Songbin carried it large portion of the attacking half and then played a through ball into Klaus, who proved me wrong from the very beginning when I was worried about too many back heels and being predictable. In this transition moment where you're forcing guys to move and draw them with you, this was the perfect time to initiate this back pass, which we know Klaus is quality with. And it works to a T when you're pulling defenders in motion like this and just stopping the motion of the ball so rapidly, getting it back to a trailing Marcel Hartl, who finished. And Marcel Hartl said post game, Klaus, he credits Klaus for, quote, 80% of that goal with that pass. And I said earlier, this was a goal that Marcel Hartl had to finish. After the missed shot with the header at the beginning, this is what you expect your DP level player to do. And he finished it. He did exactly what we want him to do, what we've needed him to do. It was a 0.3 XG, 0.28 expected goals on target. So he used the momentum. He used the keeper's movement to get the shot in the right location. And St. Louis goes up 2-0.
Yeah, it was a great finish. Also a great build up. Sam Bing with his speed, and you mentioned like players getting ready to run when the team recovers the ball, and Conrad Wallen was also on that play. He was running to the right of Sam Bing, and yeah, just Klaus. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the back heel either. I think most of the times it fails when Klaus or Hartel do it, but this one, he knew where Hartel was,
Yes.
and you can see on the replay that he kind of quickly looked back to knew where he was and just worked great this time, and Marcel Hartel very clinical with the finish. So it was great to see your two DPs create like finishing a chance like this. So credit to both of them, and that was the goal City needed early in the second half.
That's the other noteworthy thing. We're not just talking about Conrad Vollum as a potential TAM DP level player. Both of the goals scored by St. Louis had our designated players impacting the goals. The first one, you had Marcel Hartl crossing it into Klaus, who laid it off and tried to pass it to Conrad Vollum. Both of them, even though they didn't get credited for the assist on it, they were impactful into the play. And then on this one, you had both of them along with your U22. So, that's fantastic right there. Your former DP, now TAM level player, passing to your U22 right mid, passing to your DP striker, laying it off for your DP number 10. That's getting the most out of your best players. And that's something that St. Louis hasn't had happen many times this season. But when it does, we have to call it out and say, this is what we need. This is what we've wanted to see. And now this is what we need to see more, because we know they're capable of it. And then after this happens, Santi, it's mostly subs. St. Louis had Montreal was the first sub at 56. St. Louis had 4 of the first 5 shots in the second half, all prior to their first sub. So they had overall momentum in the first 15 minutes or so of the second half. 61 minutes, St. Louis makes a sub, Morales and Joyner in for Durkin and Songbin. This put Alfredo Morales in at central midfield, and Mackay Joyner took the left mid role, sliding Salio over to the right, which he's now played multiple times here recently, which is kind of good to see from a versatility perspective, to keep Salio on the field, which I think we both want to see a lot of. And then at 72 minutes, there was probably the best opportunity besides the goal that I think we had, where just before McSorley entered, Edu Leuven had a through ball played in from Klaus on a give and go, and Leuven was just unable to flick it over the keeper. It looked like he tried to chip the keeper a little bit. The range was a little close for a chip, went just over the net, and Leuven wasn't able to get a goal at that one. But then 73, you had a few subs. McSorley enters for Pompeo. That's a like for like. And then 85, Seth Antwi enters, making his MLS debut for Edu Leuven. This was the final sub window for St. Louis. So this was at 85. Critchley, in my opinion, parking the bus more or less, bringing in that defensive-minded, fresh central midfielder in Seth Antwi, appropriate for the moment, being up 2 in the closing minutes. Did you have any other noteworthy things in the match? We talked a little bit about McSorley's 90+1 shot, but otherwise, great job by St. Louis in finally closing this one out.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was good, especially that final substitution, getting a defensive-minded player. Yeah, and I know the DNA of this team is always continue attacking, find that third goal.
Yeah.
And even on the broadcast, like towards the 65th minute, 70th minute, we're wondering, okay, when are we gonna park the bus? Because it has been proven before that if we continue attacking, we may not get the result. And getting this first away result, it's important. So I'm glad the team was able to close it out. And yeah, after a few attempts, didn't find that third goal. You might as well just try to park the bus and finish the game off.
And St. Louis ended this one losing the XG battle, but obviously that this is one of those matches where we overperformed our XG, and something we've been wanting to see as the absolute worst team in Major League Soccer when it comes to non-penalty expected goals compared to actual goals scored. We're underperforming by nearly 10 goals coming into this match versus what the underlying metrics say we should be doing. So to have 1.21 XG and then scoring 2, a welcome change for sure. We had more shots on target than Montreal, even though they outshot us 18-13. We outshot them on target 4-3. And then Montreal ended up winning the possession battle and the field tilt pretty handily. 69% field tilt on 56% total possession. St. Louis, I think, had a really nice look and shape in this match where they were coming into mostly attacking from the right-hand side. But if you look at their passing network, I think it was pretty even overall. Falou Fall was a little more advanced than Henry Kessler. Kessler had a ton of clearances in this match, playing that deeper role that he usually does. You had both fullbacks pressing high. Conrad Vallum was higher than Devin Padelford, and most of the action went through the right side. This is the only time I'll really mention Devin Padelford in this match because I didn't feel like he impacted it very much. Is Fetlord Colton in our chat says, is Padelford the answer at left back? Do we try and get him from Minnesota United after his loan? I would love to. I don't understand there to be a purchase option at this point, but if we were able to secure him somehow, I do think his profile fits us very well. He offers the throw in, which our good friend Tom Schwartz mentions multiple times on the press conference. God love him. But he offers that aspect. Most games, Devin Padelford has really impacted things and offering that good look in the attack on the left side. I think we identified something in this match against Montreal that really showed a weak point in their left defensive side that we exploited pretty heavily with Conrad Vallum. So good example of how both players at times and in the right matches against the right opposition can impact the game with their skill sets. This one, we just leveraged Vallum a whole lot more than Padelford, and we didn't have any defensive lapses from Padelford either. I think the fact that there's not much to comment on with him, in my opinion, that's not a bad thing in a game like this.
Yeah, and it shows the team can do things on both sides instead of being reliant on that left side. But yeah, he wasn't very involved last night just because the team was favoring the right side. As you mentioned, they probably identified something on their left back that they thought they could exploit. The one thing that caught my attention about the passing network, and you mentioned how much Hartel went back to get the ball, is that on the overall positioning, he shows below the midfield line, and there are multiple players above him.
That's right. Yeah, he's shown on the midfield line just deeper than Devin Padelford, in fact. And so we're looking at the average. And so this isn't saying that he spent all of his time back there. It's saying that he was very willing to come back. And that it's nice to see data support what you saw in the eye test, that's for sure. And that's definitely what this is doing. On that same note, when we look at players of the man of the match, noteworthy players, Marcel Hartl was the broadcast's player of the match. 1 goal on 3 shots. This is Hartl's 6th MLS goal and 7th in all competitions this year. But in the app, as voted by the fans, it was Klaus.
It was the back heel. It was that back heel.
It was the back heel. Klaus had 1 assist in this match. Thought that he might get away with 2 assists, but that wasn't meant to be, even though he created the first one with Vallum. 3 chances created, 1 shot. Klaus led all players in expected assists, 0.34. It was his first assist of the year. So again, you're looking at a player who has a little bit of a different look, a little bit of a different performance based on what the needs of the team are, holding up the ball, distributing to others. This is yet another benefit to Klaus in his versatility as that striker. Conrad Vallum, obviously, we can't give the guy enough credit for this one. Would have been a good choice for a man of the match, obviously, as well. 1 goal, led the team in XG with 0.35. Good defensive work, too. He had 2 blocks, tied for lead in the game with Falou Fall. He had 3 clearances, 1 interception, 3 recoveries, and it was obviously his first career goal for City. Songbin Jong, 1 assist. It was his 2nd assist of the year. Edu Leuven led the team in touches with 67, and Falou Fall 2nd on the team in touches with 64, 2 blocks in the game, tied for most in the game with Vallum, 6 clearances, which was tied for 2nd in the game to Henry Kessler's 9. Falou Fall had 3 interceptions, 4 recoveries, and was 6 of 8 on duels won. He led the team in that category. Falou Fall, like I said earlier, was also the most accurate passer of anyone who played at least 45 minutes, having 47 of 49 accurate passes, good for 96%. And that included 4 of 4 accurate long balls. Who was your man of the match out of all of these guys? And did we miss anybody for noteworthy performances?
No, great performances by a lot of guys. But on the Spanish broadcast, we gave it to Conrad Wallem.
Good choice.
Like, he scored the goal, and he did a good work defensively. He had other chances to score too. He even said in the press conference that if everything had gone right, he could have scored 3 goals.
Yep.
So yeah, he was very involved, and kudos to him getting his first MLS goal. I think, especially earlier in the season when he had a more offensive role, he probably wanted some of those back, and that gets to you, like, when you have chances and you don't score and it takes so long. So I'm glad that monkey's off his back now.
100%. Could not agree more. A complete performance by St. Louis, as much as we wanted to see. There wasn't a lot of excitement, admittedly, built into this one ahead of time, but it's that separating match where you need to see this kind of a performance against a team that you expect to be lower on the table, and you just think of yourself as a better team than them, no matter what else is going on. This was an opportunity to kind of prove that. And so that's what we carry into this next week. And on top of that, I know we shouldn't talk about playoffs still. You mentioned it earlier, but with San Jose's loss to LAFC this weekend, 4-2, City remains statistically alive in the playoff hunt for at least one more week. Now, it gets really specific from here on out, and starting next week. And next week they travel to San Jose. It's a head-to-head battle next Saturday at 9:30 p.m. Central Time. It could eliminate them, and we'll talk about a bunch of scenarios, but it boils down to, most clearly as I can put it, a loss or a draw next week will eliminate us. With 4 games remaining, if we draw San Jose, we'll be 10 points behind them. And obviously, if we lose, that's what it is. So to me, Santi, starting right now, it's win or we're out.
Yeah, and I have bad news for you. And I had not looked at this in advance. I knew, City needs to win, and a lot of combinations need to happen. Like San Jose, San Jose. Even after this game, we also lay Dallas, Houston will need to basically lose a lot. Real Salt Lake has 6 games left because they got some of their games.
They do have 2 games in hand.
Schedule. They actually play midweek this week. So if they win, and kudos to I finally found it here. Kudos to Robert Clark. He mentioned this on the chat. Basically, if they win, they will get to 37 points.
You're right.
But that will be their 11th win of the season. And City, if they win out, they could only get to 10 wins. So basically, City will be out if they also wins.
This is why, if you're watching on the live stream, you'll notice that as I was saying that, as I was getting passionate about this win or go home scenario, Santi's over here with a finger up, like, hang on. I should pay more attention when Santi's trying to get me to stop my line of thinking so I don't embarrass myself. But that's a great point. So midweek, we have to watch for Real Salt Lake to see if they pull off the win, because that could eliminate us, you think, before we actually play next weekend?
Yeah. Unless I think the first tiebreaker is total number of wins per match, total number of wins, and that would be their 11th win, and City could only get 10 wins if they win their next 4 games.
So we have to root for LAFC and San in this one.
Yeah,
that feels weird.
Stay alive, but yeah, regardless of that midweek match, winning against San Jose, great. City will get to 28 points, and then combine with losses also on Saturday by Real Salt Lake again, Dallas, and Houston, it will make it a little bit interesting, but I still think it's out of reach. You will need those teams to lose out, and that's very difficult.
And hey, listen, we know we're just having fun with this conversation. We know that for all intents and purposes, we're eliminated, but this could be our last chance to actually have this fun conversation of scenarios. So indulge us, if you would, for just a little bit as we do this. Have fun with it while you can still have fun before we potentially very quickly turn the page into what life being eliminated and playing matches looks like. So thank you for indulging us in that quick conversation. Santi, before we get out of here, I gotta spotlight, I think, one for sure match, maybe two matches in this MLS slate this week. The first one is this goal fest against Columbus and Atlanta, 5-4. But the real one I want to highlight is the match played on the other side of Canada from us in Vancouver, where Bradley Carnell's Philadelphia Union lost 7-0 to the Vancouver Whitecaps. And you may have missed this if you went to bed before it was over, but our good friend Thomas Muller had a hat trick. Two of them were PKs, which, we're familiar with what that's like. But these were early goals: 18, 24, 29, 41 plus 1, 61, 80, 88. The Carnell side was decimated by this Whitecaps team. And so, that might put a different look on the quality of Vancouver with Thomas Muller, and they're back, and that's a heck of a stat line right there.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I saw it was 3-0 before I went to bed, and even saw something on social media that Philadelphia had a score, but they were offside, but that they were kind of still in the game. And then when I checked this morning, 7 goals and hat trick by Mueller, could be a wake up call for Carnell and his side too. I guess it's good to have that before the playoffs.
I would hope it's for Carnell's sake, because we like Bradley Carnell and Indiana Vasilev. Hopefully it's a wake-up call and not something that can derail their season in that way. You never know. Responding to a match like that is super important, as we know. But flipping to St. Louis again, how we respond to this match will also be very important. Like you said, the next monkey on the back of David Critchley is a back-to-back win. So he's gotten his clean sheet. He's gotten his road victory. The last piece of the puzzle almost of things to check off the box, aside from a winning record, which is out of his hands at this point, back-to-back wins. So that's the big playoffs or no, scenarios or no. That's the thing that we're going to be looking for this coming week, is what does David Critchley have to do to get his team to earn back-to-back wins for the first time, and to do it on the road. At least in this one, it's against the team that we are 5-0-0 against all time. And typically, San Jose is a team that good things happen when we play them. And so we hope to keep that vibe going.
Gotta keep that perfect record against San Jose. Even if it's a draw, I'll take it. Just because I think I mentioned earlier, every time under Critchley that the team has gotten a win, the next game has been a loss. So so I will take the draw too, because it's also a positive. 2 games away and no losses. That would be good too. But hopefully keep the perfect record against San Jose, and maybe midweek Real Salt Lake doesn't lose, and we keep it exciting. I still think we're out of it, obviously not mathematically, but at least keep some excitement for the next couple of weeks.
Well, the last high note I want to end this one on is with this win, we have picked up points in back-to-back matches for the first time under Critchley. So we haven't had back-to-back wins. We haven't had a good result after a win. But with the draw against Dallas and the win against Montreal, this was the first time that Critchley has picked up points in back-to-back matches in his tenure as interim manager for St. Louis City SC. So that has to go set as well. And I think we'll probably end the show on that positive note. For Santiago Beltran, my name is Matt Baker. Thank you so much for joining us on this apparently extended edition of Flyover Fallout, which we just can't contain ourselves when we have a win like this. Plenty to talk about, plus the JGR Seth Antwi news that kicked off the show. So thank you so much for joining us and sticking with us. Enjoy the week. Have a good, just enjoy this win. And we'll be back with you later on this week to talk more St. Louis City.
Vamos City.
All right, guys, that's it for us. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning. Hopefully we provided somewhat of a good start to the day. Enjoy the day, enjoy these vibes, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Thanks, guys.